how my daughter became my ancestor. So that's probably a really outlandish thing to say, I know that. And it also doesn't make any damn sense. But the thing is, my daughter, my firstborn, who I looked forward to mother so much, she was stillborn on the day that I gave birth to her. And as a result, she went before me in a way and in the order of things that are not supposed to be, in a way that things are not supposed to happen. You know, when you think of your ancestors, these are people who have died before you. And a lot of the times when we speak about ancestors, especially like in a spiritual sense, we speak of people who, if we connect with our culture and our past, we can the lived experiences and the things that they would have learnt throughout their life, you know, the elders, the leaders, and things like that. Now, my daughter has been doing that for me. In the 3 years that she has been gone, I have learnt so much more about myself, about life, than I ever could have otherwise. And I don't wish that this was the case. I don't wish that she became my ancestor. Like, I don't even want to sound like I'm romanticizing, or glamorizing this very horrific, traumatic experience. But it really does feel like her having gone, I still really want to connect with her and her spirit and who she would have been, what she might have been, what she might have been doing, how she would have moved in the world. Because I don't have that, just like with my ancestors, they are not here. I think of like, how would their teachings have taught me into this world? And everything I have learned since my daughter has died, because of my daughter's death, has been about moving in this world with empathy in a way that I probably wouldn't have had before. Like, yes, I have always been an empathetic person. I always try to put myself in other people's shoes, but you just don't know what other people are going through unless you go through it yourself. And then I think about like one of my partner's cousins, his girlfriend experienced the stillbirth of her son, Arthur, before I experienced the stillbirth of my daughter, Myla. And she had Arthur in March of 2022, sorry, May of 2022. And I remember when I met her, it would have been September of 2022, and I was already quite far along in my pregnancy. I was due in January, so I was still quite far along. And I remember they disclosed, my husband told me before, he said, she has experienced stillbirth, let's not talk about babies. And I was like, oh, okay, let's not talk about babies. And then she brought it up. Of course she did. Just like what I do now. Like, when you don't go through that, you think, why would you want to bring up a baby who's died? Like, why would you want to do that? But she brought it up and she was like, oh, this is my son. I want to, my son Arthur, I gave birth to him on this date. And look at his scan photos. She always would show his scan photos and his video. And just thinking about that is making me feel emotional, because at the time when she was showing me, I didn't understand the necessity of a mother wanting to do that. At that point, I'm thinking, why would you want to relive that, but how sad that a mum has to grasp into these things, right? Just putting myself back into that moment whilst I was still pregnant, and I couldn't even fathom that happening to me. So she goes through those, and I was just like, oh wow, so beautiful. She spoke about the size of his head, and she says his head was so big he could have had everybody's head. And I found that so endearing, how she was, referring and describing her child in a way that you would if he was here. Like, you would make fun, not in a bullying type of way, but like you would find little funny things, sweet funny things to refer to him. And she said he had his lips were thick like his dad's and things like that. Like, you notice and you hold on to these descriptions because that's all you have. And now that's what I do. You know, this is all I have, and I want to hold on to that, and I do want to share that with as many people as I can, because it validates the fact that my daughter was here. Unfortunately, when you experience grief and loss, your brain sometimes does this thing of like, did that even really happen to me? And I don't want to have to go through that. I want to be able to say, yes, my daughter existed. And the best way to do that is to speak to other people, and other people seeing and saying her name, you know, like it makes such a big difference. So yeah, you know, with that cousin, I then said to her, the worst kind of thing to ever say to anyone, it started with at least. As soon as you're going into at least territory, you're wrong for whatever comes out of it. Even if you think you're being empathetic, you're being kind, you're being thoughtful, you're really not. There's no at least. You know, it's the worst experience that could ever happen. There's no silver lining, there's no fixing it. I said, at least you'll know for next time. At that point in time, I didn't think there's anything wrong with that. But it's almost like, why did that have to happen for me to know next time? Why am I minimizing that experience and prepare for the next time? You know, you never know, it could still happen again. That wasn't worth happening to prepare me for next time. And why, you know, some people don't even want to have a next time. They just wish they had that baby. So yeah, Myla has been teaching me so much about empathy. I try to look at all avenues of somebody's experience as much as I can. I won't say and sit here that I know everything about how everyone's experiencing, and I'm the person who's not gonna, you know, miss things, because obviously you do. You're a human being at the end of the day. But Myla's experience really has made me so empathetic. It has made me more giving. It has made me, yeah, when I say think about like for example, when you experience baby loss, you know what it's like to experience baby loss. But if you experience it once, you might not know what it's like to experience it multiple times. What I think Myla is teaching me is to be open-minded to the different layers of baby loss, right? The different layers of loss in general, the different layers of grief in general. Because obviously there's grief of losing somebody, but there's also grief of losing something, there's grief of not having things and stuff like that. It's made me realize, for example, you know, people who have multiple losses and never have any children, right? Who have fertility difficulties, people who don't want any children. Just like think about the different layers, because sadly, sometimes you can fall into a place where you only think about your experience and your experience alone, and you don't allow yourself to think about the possibility of other people's experiences. So knowing how to read the room, for example, like let's say whenever I do anything to do with baby loss, I will make sure I will try my darndest. I did do this recently where I went to a walk and I had my son with me. It was a baby loss walk, and I was told that I could do that I could bring him because it's about, you know, the family at large. But actually, in hindsight, I don't think I should have at all, because when I think about where I was after losing my daughter, seeing a baby, that really triggered me. And so even though I was encouraged to do that, I should have just gone with my judgment of it's probably not best suited to do that. So it's about learning to think about the stuff that you don't even recognize, the stuff that you might not experience yourself anymore, because now you might be in a different place, right? So at the start of my grief, I had no children whatsoever. Now, leading up into 3 years, I've got my son who's going to be 2 in one day. Tomorrow is his birthday. So my experience is different from somebody who has just lost their child. It's about always learning about that. Myla is teaching me to find myself. She has taught me to look at self-care differently, to care for myself, because I wasn't doing that after I lost her. I wasn't really into that before I lost her. And she is teaching me that if she was here, I would have wanted her to know about self-care, right? Because I was already making a list of books that I was going to read to her. I had so many books. It was all about hair, because I knew she was going to be born with 4C hair, and I didn't want her to have to go through with what I went through, which was hating my hair, relaxing my hair, wanting straight hair, right? Just denouncing anything to do with my afro because I thought it was horrible, because that's what the world sold to me. And my skin, right? Wanting to be lighter skin. I wanted to make sure that my daughter didn't have to go through that. So I prepared books for her. What if she's looking at me right now? What would she say in how I'm treating myself and the situations that I allow myself to have in my life, right? And this is something that I have learnt through her, because I wouldn't want my daughter to see a mother who doesn't love herself, because then I'm teaching that to her, right? And every single day I allow myself to think about that, about what would I want to do differently today, that my daughter would be proud of, that I would be teaching my daughter, and obviously my son as well, because he's here. So it's about both of them and the differences of teaching men and women, right? Because unfortunately this world teaches boys to move differently. But yeah, I do consider the things that I'm learning from my daughter to be ancestral level type teachings, because she isn't here. There's a beautiful quote by Maya Angelou, who my daughter is kind of named after. Maya Angela is my daughter's name. And Maya Angelou says something along the lines of, when you walk into a space, wherever you go, take all of your ancestors with you. Anyone you've ever loved or who's ever loved you, bring them with you. She talks about, like, whether it's your great granddad who you never met, bring them with you, your auntie. And this is what I think about with my daughter. Like, I bring her with me, because all we ever knew with each other was love. She knew my heartbeat in and out. She knew it better than I know it myself. She listened to it, you know. She was nurtured through me. This was her home, and our house is a sacred space, you know. She listened to the music that I played. She listened to me speaking. She listened to her father speaking to her. She listened to her family, the love that her family had for her. So absolutely, I think of my daughter as an ancestor, because I get to bring her with me. She's gone, but I get to bring her with me. And I have learned so much about myself through the power of continued connection with my daughter, of continued strength and love with my daughter. That resilience to fight against the world that tells you let go, move on. You learn so much from that. And yeah, that's how I see it. Thank you so much for listening. If you feel similarly, if you have similar stories, please do comment along. It would be lovely to hear from you. Thank you.